Hello, and welcome back to Entrepreneur Talks podcast. This is season 4. Thank you for being with us through all the previous seasons, and we're gonna have more fun and inspirational stories for you to hear on season 4. My name is Yola Bastos. I'm one of the co-founders of WomenFlix Network community. We are focused on empowering and motivating women around the world to achieve their dreams. We mainly support them through coaching, business strategies, and workshops. Our aim is to build connections that will increase the power of women in collaboration and be able to create space for growth and expand our knowledge. Find more about WomenFlix through Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube. You can find us always by WomenFlix. I also want to say welcome to my guests on this new season. And I hope for my listeners to enjoy every episode and get in touch with each of my guests through the information that will be available on each podcast episode description. My guest for today's podcast is Saz Ross. Saz is a Latin illustrator, educator, and a leadership team member of a non-profit organization called Leaders of Tomorrow Youth Center. She's also a freelancer illustrator who designs album arts, business logos, and invitations, and always try to find ways to serve artistic needs of clients all around USA. Let's welcome Saz Ross and hear her story and feel inspired. Hello, Saz. Welcome to my podcast. I'm so glad to have you here with me today.
I'm so happy to be here, Yola, and I'm excited to talk to you and dive a little bit deeper into the work that I've been doing and how I've been helping the communities around me. So I appreciate you letting me be here today.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you. So tell me, before we start, any questions, where are you talking from?
Calling from Baltimore, Maryland.
Oh, so and you are from there, you grew up. Tell me a little bit about where you're coming from in general.
So I was born in Manhattan and I was raised in New York, right outside Queens. And I grew up there with my mom, my dad, my grandma raised me, and I came from a very, very mixed cultural background with my parents, my mom being Puerto Rican and my dad being Russian. So that's very interesting as a kid. And then eventually I moved to Maryland to pursue art education at Towson University. So that's what brought me here. And I loved Maryland so much that I stayed in Baltimore. And that's where I've been building since.
Wow. I don't know USA, but I know these names that you're talking. I'm talking with you from London, United Kingdom. So it's quite far away, right?
A little far, but I love Europe. And I have quite a few friends that live in London, and they say fabulous things. So I'm excited to speak abroad.
Oh, amazing!
Yeah,
you sound like you've never been here, right?
I've never been to London, but I've been to Spain, Greece, Germany, and Where else? One more part, but I've never been to London. I kind of danced around. Yeah.
You need to come to London. You have to come to London.
Yeah, you know what, Yola, when I come to London, you're going to show me where to get the good fish and chips, okay? So tell me where to go, and I'm going to do it.
Don't worry, I will. I'm from Portugal, but I live here enough years to know that kind of place where we need to stay in the queue that goes around the block because the fish and chips are good. I know exactly.
Perfect. I'll book my flight once the pandemic is over.
Fabulous. So let's start with our podcast session regarding yourself and your journey and your story. So you are a Latin illustrator, educator, and leadership team member of a non-profit organization. Can you tell us about this organization that you've been working with?
Absolutely. It's incredible. They're called Leaders of Tomorrow Youth Center, and they build art programs, everything from visual art to dance, music, theater, creative writing, culinary arts, cosmetology, and they build these programs in the most poverty-stricken areas of Maryland. So inner cities, a lot of these kids have never, even held a paintbrush. So you're working with kids who have, minimal materials, and you're bringing art to their life. So I started working for them as an instructor, and once a leadership position opened up, I, at the time, was getting my master's in art education, and I was also building my art business, which is the freelance illustration business. And it just was a good timing, and I was able to get an interview, and I got the job. And since then, it's been a virtual transition. So we've been all of our programs online.
Oh yes, because the pandemic and the lockdown, right? Everything.
Yeah. But we were still thriving through all of it because we already started virtual instruction before the pandemic, so that when that hit, we were like, hey, we're ready to go. And, who needs art program? We'll, make it happen. We were sending out supply kits. So we were adapting as best as we could at that time.
But what about these kids that you work with? Because you said they are from the poverty, like from the communities. How they can access? They got some support for while on lockdown. Let's say, how they did manage to work through with your online illustrator?
It's a really good question. So basically what would happen if, depending on the programs we had in place at their school, and this was, there would be situations contingent upon the school community. So their school community was responsible for handing out laptops. And depending on what school these kids were at, because we have partnerships in schools throughout Baltimore and throughout Maryland, we would have them pick up their materials, their laptop, and then they would have to log on from home to our programs. But, in the midst of that transition, unfortunately, we lost a lot of students. We still had all the partnerships, but we lost a lot of the community because it was, a lot of kids not being able to access Wi-Fi or not having a supportive environment at home. So we've been trying to get as creative as possible with creating resources for parents, professional development webinars for families where families can come together and create art together. So we're using all of those things to build bridges, to make it easier in the fall for when school starts again to, teach virtually, because it's apparent that a lot isn't changing. Yeah.
You need a lot of support from them, and if they can afford, they must have some support from the government as well to be able to provide for the kids, and that's very important. Is really. But I'm glad that you managed to get your programs online before the pandemic. This is really.
Oh, I know. Like we had a psychic on our team that was telling us to do this or something, right?
That's really good. And what about your own business? How long you been doing your own, or when did it started?
So about 5 years ago, I started doodling on my couch. It was just really a way for me to find therapy in my day, relax. My mom was going through very intense chemotherapy, and I think, I had a lot of emotion built up, and I was doing so much traveling between Maryland and New York that it was getting so stressful to do anything or focus on anything. So I was just drawing. I used to be a printmaker. I used to lay out huge sheets of glass, like 6 by 6 foot sheets of glass, put a roll of paper on top of it, and create monotype prints, which are ink prints by hand. But I couldn't do that in my small row home in Baltimore. So I, instead of using, liquid ink on a sheet of plexiglass, I started using pen and ink on paper. And I was just doing simple drawings and illustrations, but they evolved. And as my mom's treatment got more intense, the pictures became more intense. I was starting to illustrate a story about a girl, essentially that girl being me, and her trying to find her way. A lot of pictures of her with a lantern in the woods. So she's lost in most of these pictures. So really just her trying to find, creative solutions to freedom. And that's basically what I was going through in my mind. So the birth of this whole business basically came out of not only having to take care of my mother, but in the process of making the art, my mother passed away. And I think something happens in your mind when someone very close to you is gone. Right. There's almost like a reset button that gets hit. And at the time when she passed, this enormous, significant figure in my life who was gone, I didn't really know how to cope with that. And I don't think, I was very impulsive at the time. I quit my job. I worked in a very, very nice county teaching art full time. And I had a pension, I had tenure, and I threw it all away. And I think I thought I was going to rediscover myself after her passing. And I just wound up making more decisions that led me into this hole. And the whole time I'm drawing and drawing and drawing, but it feels like nothing is sticking. And then I started sharing more of my work online. And then slowly but surely things started blowing up. I had businesses reaching out to me, music groups reaching out to me. I had, I was taking on partnerships I never would have thought I would have ever done in my life, and getting paid to do it. So that put me on my feet, and it made me realize, hey, there is obviously an interest in these pen and ink illustrations, many of which don't even have color. It's mostly black and white. Now I'm getting a little more adventurous, but then I wasn't. And I had tons of people coming up to me. And if anything, I think the real interest was the story. Yes. It was being able to show what I was going through. And I think a lot of people kind of just wanted to keep knowing what's next. Yeah. So that helped me. Yeah. So ever since then, I've been selling work online. I've been doing markets, and with Corona, I've been trying to raise money for Black Lives Matter and certain political movements here by, selling art and, contributing to the cause, but then also still maintaining the strong partnerships that I have with businesses and people that are interested in, finding a logo or an artwork that speaks to them.
Wow, that's really good, Saz. I love your story because it's really connected with your drawing and your art, because everyone that could see or could read about your story, and they want to know, like you said, they want to know more. What is next? What is next? And
right.
And I believe that's still the same. What is next? What is next? Because it's 5 years gone, but you still don't having your mom on your side, and you still trying to understand, I believe, because I'm on the same boat, exactly on the same length of time. And
Wow.
when that happened, I thought like my life doesn't make sense. So I was
Right.
frustrated, I was upset, I was like, I just want to, I don't know, explode. But now I see that the time goes by, and when I look back, I can see that the strength that I've got because I remember that person in my life, what she taught me, what she taught me, and that makes me go and carry on and show and bring my story in a way. Like I like to speak, I like to be in like I like to do this podcast because my mom used to say, Yola, you talk too much. Wow, come on, let's switch the call because I talk too much. So this is to honor her, and more things are happening in my life just to honor this amazing woman and amazing woman that was my mom. And I believe like now I can understand, I can see things like that, but back on when everything happened, I couldn't see anything. And I totally understand your journey, and I love the fact that you're doing something, because I think by the end of the day, like in somehow they are giving us, like sending injections of strength and power to us, right?
Yes. And they're always with you in some capacity. And I don't know if you're a believer in signs from
Yeah.
nature, but right before she passed away, she said she'd be a butterfly, a purple butterfly. And let me tell you,
Wow.
I don't know if it's because it's on my radar, but I promise you that I'm always around butterflies. I feel like I'm always around, and I'm always seeing them, and they're becoming more apparent to me. And I do think that it is a sign of her love.
Yeah. And more is yet to come, right? So this is not,
Yeah.
this is just the beginning, because they said, oh, daughter, my lovely daughter, this is just the beginning. Carry on.
Carry on. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Queen. I know you know Queen.
Oh, yeah.
But what my favorite song is "The Show Must Go On," and when I hear Freddie Mercury sing that, I'm always thinking of pushing forward, and I'm thinking of resilience, and my life has been a story of resilience. So if anything, yeah, I definitely connect to that expression and that song because of everything I've been through. But
Yeah,
yeah,
totally with you. Thank you so much for sharing that part of you.
yes, it's been
That,
so healing to do that. And only doing this business, I've been drawing for 5 years, but I really launched this about less than a year ago.
right.
And it's beautiful when you take a risk, and you fight through all of the downhill battles, and you create this space in your mind that just allows you to keep going, because that person is looking over you, and there are people in your life that you want to be, you want to make proud. And that's, at the end of the day, it's all worth it.
Yes.
Every little bit is worth it.
Yes. And the work that you're doing with the community as well is worth it, and is also gives you strength, right? It totally empowers you to continue, because you're giving something, maybe from your side can be like a little something from you, but for these people that you're working with, it's such a big difference in their lives.
Yeah, art saved me, and I know it saves students of mine, and it's going to keep saving people. It's going to keep, saving lives. It's going to save, all of those really hard mental spaces that people go, it'll keep them from entering into, a place that might be, dangerous for them. I think it's something that will keep you afloat and will lift your spirit in a way that not many other things can. So yeah, that expression part of it is so essential, especially in a time like now where people feel like they're isolated and they don't have an outlet. Everyone has an outlet, and it's important to know how to access your outlet, because once you do that, it's going to help you, it's going to save you, and it's going to make you a better person.
Right. thank you, Saz. Thank you so much for this. Oh,
Yeah.
amazing. Amazing talk. Amazing.
Yes. And it's so funny. You said you love speaking, and I think it's, Yola, you doing this and being able to reach other women and have them share their story while, sharing a bit of your own. It's really empowering, and it's so beautiful. And you're such a fun person to talk to. So if anything, I enjoy you letting me be here.
Oh, thank you so much. Great.
Yeah.
So tell me, my last question is, I would love to stay here and talk more, but this is a podcast. We will have to finish somehow, some way.
Yes, the show must go on.
How can people connect with you and find more about your work?
There's lots of different ways. I'm pretty active on Instagram. You can follow Saz, SAZ_Ross, ROSS. You can go to my business page where I have a lot of my work that has traveled with me through all the years, especially with the story that I told at sazafrasfactory.com, SAZAFRASS factory.com. And some of the speaking gigs and creative webinars that I do reach different businesses, school systems, ministries. So if you have a community that wants to do a virtual art session, I'm your girl. And let me know what you would like, and I can always tailor the message and the material to whatever group you're working with. And it would be a pleasure to have that experience, to work with whoever's listening.
Beautiful. All this information is going to be on the description of the podcast when it comes live, so anyone can just jump and go and find Saz on Instagram, Facebook, or website, and also YouTube, right?
Yeah, I do have YouTube. I mean, let me tell you, it gets overwhelming when I think you have too many social media platforms, but I know YouTube is awesome because you just, sometimes you're a creator and you'll create videos on Instagram, but you're like, wait, these are videos. Why don't they just go on YouTube? So I think it's, at the end of the day, it all gets linked together somehow, right?
Totally,
but
yes. I do agree.
Yep. There are no other Saz Rosses, so if you type it in, it'll pop up wherever you are.
I will find you, because it's like what are we doing here on podcast? We'll be on podcast website, but also I've got a page where this session will be there as well. So
right, cross-pollinate. There you go.
Yeah. So we need to be everywhere we can. We decide we choose, because I choose couple of platforms, and one of them is YouTube. It's a great platform to increase to be visible to others around the globe. Fantastic. Saz, thank you so much for this amazing experience. This conversation was touch.
Touches my heart as well, nudging on my heartstrings as we speak. But thank you so much for inviting me, and I hope any of this information made a listener want to push through and possibly just make something. Get your hands dirty.
Totally. All the best, and we will definitely keep in touch. I will be talking to you and seeing your work growing, and I will be there. I will be watching you. I just got you on my pages as well, so we will keep in touch. You take care. All right.
Absolutely. Take care. Stay safe out there.
You too. Thank you. Bye-bye. Hello. Once again, I want to say thank you for joining us on our podcast episode. We came to the end of this episode, but we will have another episode next week. So don't forget, follow us so you can catch the next one. You take care, and I speak with you next week. Bye.